Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am back for Week 8's edition of What Have We Learned? We're at the halfway point of the 2012 NFL season. Amazing, ain't it? Just seems like we just had Week 1's kickoff not too long ago, but time flies, and we're already 8 weeks complete into the season, which for most teams is the halfway point. Others have already had their bye weeks, so I guess that doesn't mean much of anything, but week eight, week nine, we're in the halfway point of the season, and um, some teams that are looking the part of top level contenders are still in that spot. Teams that look like they were falling off, they've come up. Teams that have stayed falling off will stay falling off. That's pretty much all I have for week 8. Just kidding. I'm going to go team by team. I'm going to start with last Thursday's game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Surprised me. I got this one wrong. But what we learned from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is that if they can put it together offensively, they have a potent team on offense with Josh Freeman. Doug Martin had his rookie coming out party by gashing the Vikings for 200 total yards, 130 plus on the ground. He had a 64-yard touchdown catch. He had a 79-yard touchdown run, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But he really showed the world who he was in this game. Josh Freeman looked more like the Josh Freeman of 2010 instead of 2011. He had probably one of his most complete games since that time period. And the rapport he has with Vincent Jackson is paying dividends, which is why the Bucs front office went out and got him. They knew that Josh Freeman needed a proven number one, and Vincent Jackson, with his time in San Diego, proved that he was a legit number one receiver from his time with Phillip Rivers. So Josh Freeman has a wonderful toy, quote unquote. Bad news is that they're gonna have to see how well they're gonna have that offense still clicking the way it was now that they're gonna be without their other major free agent acquisition in Carl Nicks. Carl Nicks has now been placed on IR. He's been battling a toe injury and it became too much to bear. So he's gone. He's on the shelf for the season. They already lost Davin Joseph, their other starting guard, for the season earlier this year. So they lost two of their key cogs on that offensive line, and right when they're actually showing life on offense, especially in Doug Martin's case. So it's going to be interesting to see how well he's able to do without that major piece on the front line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But thing is, they're right in the thick of it in their division, sans the Atlanta Falcons, because the Falcons have just taken off in that division. But they're competing again. The Minnesota Vikings, what we learned about them is that they're a tale of two teams. If you remember the first 4 weeks of the season, they were handling business. Christian Ponder, he was doing his thing. Didn't throw an interception his first 4 games. His last 4, he's thrown 7. And sure enough, they're hitting the skids. Then on top of that, their defense, which if you heard me speak about Tampa Bay, definitely had the welcome mat out for that offense to run wild. I mean, they were dominated in their own house. If you watched that game, which I doubt very many people did, but if you did, you watched Tampa Bay pretty much just have their way at the Metrodome. But Christian Ponder, he's regressed. Peterson has become the bionic man, where that gruesome knee injury he suffered last season, he's not showing any ill effects of it because he's been running hard. But obviously, you need a quarterback that can actually keep the game flowing and actually make plays with his arm and not give the ball away, which Christian Ponder has started to do. And it's costing the team games, and it's costing them really their mojo. And they couldn't have picked the worst time to take this loss, because now they have quite possibly one of the more vicious upcoming games in their schedule, because now they start the divisional play. They've got the Bears, I think, 2 times in 3 weeks, something like that. They still have to play the Packers twice, and they still have the Lions. I mean, they still have to go through their division now, whereas they they had an easier schedule. They did have a definitive win against the 49ers, but, they weren't beating the teams. That Tampa Bay game, they should have won that game. But, you play to win the game. Word to Herm Edwards. But that was a game that a lot of people felt that they should have won. They're at home. But I think the warning signs were there for that team when Arizona was running wild, when Larod Stevens-Howling was running through that defense. But Minnesota's got the work cut out for them. If I'm not mistaken, they're on a bye, which, they could regroup, but at the same time, now they got to get ready for the heavy part of their schedule. So, moving forward, Carolina Panthers and Chicago Bears. What we know about the Panthers is that even though they got rid of their GM because of just how piss poor this team has been playing, it didn't matter. Cam Newton with a pick six that pretty much sealed their fate. And they're sitting on 1 win still. And now they're trying to shop D'Angelo Williams, maybe Steve Smith. That team is in total disarray. And Cam Newton, he's definitely regressed. He's definitely experienced the sophomore slump at this point. And, yeah, that team doesn't look anything like the team it did in 2011. Now, granted, they went 6-10, but at least they were more competitive. At least there was more fight. They had a lot of fight in them in this game against Chicago, which they almost won, but a key mistake will seal your fate. What we learned about Chicago is that, hey, guess what, Jay Cutler? The sack monsters are back for you. That offensive line is not doing them any favors. They allow Carolina's defense to sack him, if I can remember correctly, 6 times. 6 times, folks. That ain't going to get it done. But the thing is, they have a defense that is so opportunistic and that makes the plays when they need to make them. Tim Jennings with a pick six. Another pick six for Chicago. It's almost like we hear about this every week with them. So, as long as that defense is doing what they continue to do, Chicago will not be out of a fight. They will contend in the NFC and, at the very least the NFC North for the remainder of the season, as long as that defense stays as stout as it is. And they may be getting Alshon Jeffrey back sooner than they thought with his hand injury. So that's even more weapons for Jay Cutler on that offense. And he and Brandon Marshall are reconnecting, and they're doing it big like they did in Denver. Only difference is they actually have a defense that complements what they do productively on that offensive side of the ball. So that's Chicago. San Diego at Cleveland. What we learned about San Diego is that the Takeo Spikes curse is real. And if you don't know what the Takeo Spikes curse is, come on over here. I'll tell you about it. Okay. He was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. How many playoff appearances did they have with him there? None. He gets sent to Buffalo. How many playoff appearances did they have under Takeo with when he was there at Buffalo? 0. He goes to the 49ers. He helps Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis becomes an even better linebacker under his tutelage. But how many playoff appearances did the San Francisco 49ers have with Takeo Spikes on that roster? Think about it. 1, 2, 0. None. And now he's at San Diego for the second season. Last season, they didn't make the postseason with them. And this season, they're not going to do it. And it's not solely on him. I mean, superstition aside, or coincidence aside, however you want to look at it, that team's just terrible. Ryan Matthews, that fumbleitis is back. He's a bust. Phillip Rivers, I learned my lesson with him last season, picking him in fantasy football. Will not do it again, and he's showing me exactly why. His turnover, how is it that he was considered a top 5 QB, and now he has absolutely nothing. He's missing Vincent Jackson more than anything at this point. And we'll even dare say go even further with that, Darren Sproles. Because when Ryan Matthews can't hold on to the ball, Darren Sproles was the guy. He was the gadget man. And Robert Meacham, who wanted big money, he got his big money, went to San Diego, can't even catch a touchdown pass against Cleveland. You lose to Cleveland 7-6. That, ladies and gentlemen, is definitive proof that this team will absolutely suck. And I see at the very best 8-8, but I'm calling 6-10 with this team. I don't see him doing anything. I think Norv Turner has reached the end of his rope. He's done. And that team needs an overhaul. Big time. What we learned about Cleveland, they got some fight in them. They got some serious fight in them. They're the punching, they're the punch line, and the punching bag of the NFL. It's Cleveland. Cleveland sucks. The town as a sports town is terrible. The Indians, the Cavs, the Browns, they're just terrible. But Trent Richardson is the real deal, folks. And if Jim Brown is co-signing this kid, you better listen. Trent Richardson single-handedly carried that team to a victory, a 7-6 victory. His lone touchdown was the victory. But that defense deserves a lot of credit, too. That defense held San Diego out of the end zone. Hell, Nate Kading, he's gone. He wanted to be gone, he's gone. So the only player that's there from the Eli Phillip Rivers trade that San Diego and the Giants did in the 2004 NFL Draft is Phillip Rivers. So basically, at this point, like I said, San Diego is just terrible. The Takeo Spikes curse is real. Cleveland, they might have a nice little nucleus, but I'm holding out before I really co-sign that, because we saw that in 2007 with Derek Anderson and Braylon Edwards. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna give them a little bit of credit, but I'm not gonna go all out. But Whedon, Richardson, and Josh Gordon, they're doing great for where they were supposed to be or what they were predicted to be this season. So, I tip my hat to Cleveland. Well done. The Seattle Seahawks at the Detroit Lions. What we know about the Seahawks is that, once again, they're away from home. They can't get it done. And the thing is that Marshawn Lynch was beasting on him, and Pete Carroll got away from that. Wanted Russell Wilson to be the man. You got Richard Sherman popping off about how he was going to change his name to Optimus Prime, and he shut down Calvin Johnson, etc. But y'all let Titus Young run wild. And Titus Young even beat you on a touchdown pass. You stop one man. Good job. But the rest of the players on offense, they got it done. And now you're sitting on an L. What we know about the Detroit Lions is that they always have this flair for the fourth quarter dramatics. I think every game that they've competed in this season has come down to the fourth quarter. But this time, Matthew Stafford finally looked like the 5,000-yard QB that he was last season. He had over 350 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, including the game winner to Titus Young, who blew up 9 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Thing is, if you don't have a running game, you're not going to make it very far in this league. But at least it stopped the bleeding for the Lions. That was the main thing. It stopped the bleeding. So if Titus Young and Ryan Broyles can help out Megatron and make up for Nate Burleson being gone for this season, they can do some things. But they need consistency from the background receivers. Megatron, he's the lead singer. Those are the background dancers, the background singers. The background singers need to step up. That's all I got to say. So, moving forward, Jacksonville Jaguars at the Green Bay Packers. What we know about the Jags is that they're the Jags. The Jags are gonna jag. But they actually competed in this game. They fought in this game. Blaine Gabbert had his career day in this game, over 300 yards passing. And everybody keeps going at Blaine Gabbert's head. And there's some merit to it. But for a number 5 pick, for a top 5 pick, Justin Blackmon is not impressing me. Not at all. I've already called him butthead from his off-season stupidity. But he's a butthead on the field. He can't separate from man coverage, which, I grew up in Oklahoma. I'm in Austin, Texas now. I grew up in that area, so I watched OSU football games. And OSU football games, when Justin Blackmon was the man, most of his passes were on crossing routes, and, when he was wide open, he was open. He never had to battle a cornerback. And even if he did, these are cornerbacks that would never see the light of day in the NFL. But in the NFL, for one, physically, he looks like a slot receiver, whereas in college, he looked a lot bigger in college than he does in the NFL. He can't get off of man coverage. He can't get off of jams. And it's got to kill to watch a receiver that was an All-American in college just half-ass the way he's done. He half-assed his routes. I'll never forget watching that game against Green Bay from the little I get to see of it. Deep crossing pattern, and he just jogged the crossing pattern. Like, he didn't even run at full speed. Like, what the hell? Everybody's going to gab about that offense not doing anything, but you got a number 5 pick that isn't giving 100% on every snap. You got a guy like Cecil Shorts. Yeah, look that name up. You know, he's a second-year player, but he's actually the one that's making the moves. Lawrence Robinson's out. Somebody got to step up. The Jags are cursed at receiver. So he's trying to do his part. And that defense held Aaron Rodgers in as much as check as you can with Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau. But it wasn't enough. You give up a block punt, you know, special teams woes, that'll seal you quick. What we know about the Packers is that they've righted the ship from being 2-3 after 5 games, and they're 5-3 now. So they've won 3 straight. They've dominated and decimated 2 out of the 3 teams. The third team they beat, but it took last minute action to do so. But they're sitting a lot more comfortably in the NFC North, knowing that they're within striking distance of the Bears and the Vikings. They've already beaten the Bears. They manhandled the Bears in week 2. So they know that they can beat them. But now the Packers are looking like the Packers that everybody thought that they were going to be coming into the season. So, and on top of that, benefit of the doubt, Aaron Rodgers was without Jordy Nelson. He was without Greg Jennings. So he didn't even have most of his main contributors on that side of the ball. So, but granted, 3 straight, 5-3, the Pack is back. Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets. I saw this coming, but I didn't see it coming like this. The Dolphins beat the living hell out of the New York Jets at the Meadowlands, at MetLife, whatever you want to call it. A block punt, a block field goal, getting beat by a backup QB because Tannehill got hurt and Matt Moore stepped up and stepped in. The Jets were doing all this talking about the Dolphins after their first encounter, about Reggie Bush and things like that, but Reggie Bush has the last laugh now, and in dominating fashion. The Dolphins are 4-3. How many people saw that coming? They're right in the thick of the AFC East. They have yet to play the Patriots. They've got 2 meetings with them. This team is very good. They're under the radar good. They have a stout run defense. Tannehill has got that offense humming. Reggie Bush and Daniel Thomas, you know, the backfield of that team is looking great. All they need is a true number 1, but what Tannehill's doing with his receivers, you wouldn't think that he would need that kind of help. So, Dolphins are sitting pretty. Team that ain't sitting pretty is the media circus of the NFL, the New York Jets. If Rex Ryan is there for one more season, it'd be a surprise to me, but that chest out, big mouth talk that he engineered from 2009, the 2 seasons that he made it to the AFC Championship game, it's done. It's done. That team is nowhere near what it was. You don't have Revis. You don't have Santonio. That offense is in total disarray. The defense isn't that defense that you had when you walked in as head coach Rex. That team is just, I feel bad for my cousin. You know, he's a Jets fan, and I know this has got to be infuriating and frustrating and depressing to witness a team like this. You know, God bless him. But yeah, that Jet squad, they're not out of it, but I just don't see them really making any heavy moves to really make an impact. And I mean, this is the first half of the season. I mean, the second half they may turn it around, but I wouldn't put money on it. So, moving forward, we have the Battle of the Birds. The Atlanta Falcons travel to Philly to take on the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Atlanta Falcons are still undefeated by thoroughly smacking the hell out of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Falcons are for real, folks. No matter how they eke out, they've been eking out victories, finding ways to win, but they manhandled the Eagles. They dominated the Eagles, offensively, defensively, however you want to see it. And they really make the Eagles front office regret handing Nnamdi Asomugha that much money when he's getting cooked by Julio Jones. He's getting cooked by a second-year receiver. This is supposed to be one of the all-pro corners. Everybody was saying that he may be better than Revis. That's false. Completely false. Revis is better with a torn ACL at this point. But the Falcons, they're 7-0. Or actually, what? Yeah, 7-0. They are 7-0. And who's stopping them right now? They are the number one team in the NFL. Mainly because they haven't lost. And you know what? No matter what flaws you might want to pick at them, the number's the number. They're 7-0. They deserve the top spot. Philadelphia Eagles are a complete and total mess. They fired the defensive coordinator. That didn't matter. Their defense still gave up the buns on the cushion to the Falcons, excuse me. Like I said, Asamoah with the big free agent acquisition, he ain't done a damn thing. Like I said, you watched that highlight of Julio Jones just running right past him and scoring on him. I mean, Asamoah looks like crap. That defense looks like crap. Jason Babin didn't even play that many snaps. And then, of course, there's that whole QB controversy with how poor Michael Vick has been playing this season, and whether it's Nick Foles' time to shine, and how they're not using LaShawn McCoy to his fullest extent. I mean, hell, when they used him against the Giants, they won. I think Andy Reid, this may be his last season as an Eagles head coach. And then on top of that, the Falcons did what no other team was able to do during Andy Reid's tenure as the Philadelphia Eagles head coach, and that's beat him as his team was coming out of a bye week. He was 13-0 heading into that game. Well, he took that L big time, 13-1, and that was a huge loss. So the Eagles are in desperation mode, and they're going to be playing another team that's in desperation in the New Orleans Saints, which I'll get to in a second. The Washington Redskins at the Pittsburgh Steelers. What we learned about the Redskins is that you don't win games if your receivers can't catch. They have like 10 drops. Come on, son, 10 drops. They had 11 going into the game all season, and they almost matched that against the Steelers. Now, the Steelers manhandled the Redskins, but you're not doing yourself any favors if your receivers aren't catching the ball. You can't do much if you're throwing the ball down the field where nobody's catching it. I mean, RG3, he's doing his thing. He's going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year if I'm not, if the way he's been playing continues to hold up. But there's only so much he can do. Your receiver's got to catch the ball, doesn't he? But Redskins are the Redskins. They're competing, and he is their franchise QB, and he's looking the part. He just didn't look it against the Steelers. What we learned about the Steelers is that don't ever bring those ugly damn jerseys out again. That's disgusting. Seriously, disgusting. And I'm not going to go any further into that because everybody else has talked about it. But I just wanted to say yuck. Absolutely yuck. But aside from that, they dominated, and they look like the Steelers that will battle in the AFC North. They look like the Steelers that will battle in the AFC in general. And Jonathan Dwyer, keep feeding him the rock. That'll alleviate a lot of pressure off of Roethlisberger. If they can keep him running and chugging hard like he's been doing, that team is going to compete in the AFC. And it's wide open. Outside of the Texans, it's wide open. So, having said that, yes. The New England Patriots and the St. Louis Rams in London. Yes, this is a Wembley Stadium game. And the Patriots just love putting hands on teams in London. And they really love putting hands on a Jeff Fisher team. They beat the St. Louis Rams 45-7, Jeff Fisher's head coach. Remember the last time Jeff Fisher faced the New England Patriots team when he was the Tennessee Titans head coach? 59-0. So it's like Belichick salivates at the opportunity to play Jeff Fisher. And he laid hands on him. St. Louis goes up 7-0. That was the last time they saw that lead. Tom Brady, Gronk, Brandon Lloyd, Stephen Ridley, they manhandled the Rams. The Rams are competing a lot more and a lot better than they were last season, but they don't have the ponies to keep up. They don't have the horsepower to stay in these races with these high performing teams, and that's going to be a problem until they get some true playmakers all over the ball. And that defense has regressed. They've been giving up a lot of big plays as of late to Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. They will dictate whether they are the bar to determine how well your defense plays. And Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady walked through that defense like it was nothing. We know about New England, same as Green Bay. They've righted their ship. They're at the top of the AFC East. And the way they're playing, they're right back into the thick of being the top team in the AFC, sans the Texans. But they're proving to the NFL that the AFC East still runs through them. They are the defending AFC champions until otherwise. So, deal with it. And I will get to the final 5 games in a moment.